So CNN just released a new article talking about all of the presidential candidates that are left in the 2020 Democratic primary race. However, they seem to have forgotten one key person in their article. Let's talk about this nonsense that boy, I'm trying to tell you. Woosa. Thanks for tuning into this last segment of Mikasa Sukasa. So, CNN just put out an article called it's called Here Come the 2020 Dropouts, referencing the 2020 Democratic primary race, right? The article details the last 48 hours in the past weekend, where it talks about, says in less than 48 hours earlier this week, the Democratic presidential candidates ended their bid. 3 Democratic presidential candidates ended their bid. The big news was that the departure of California Senator Kamala Harris, who at one point was seen as having a real chance at the nomination, but Montana Governor Steve Bullock, former Pennsylvania Representative Joe Sistak, I didn't even know that person was running, also got out of the race on Sunday and Monday. By the way, I think this should pretty much confirm for everybody that Steve Bullock was literally only in the race at the time to stop Mike Gravel from getting on that debate stage. I think that that's the only reason that he was in the race, because somehow he qualified for that singular debate. Never qualified again. There was never any major push to get him back on the debate stage. It seemed like the only reason he was there was literally to stop Mike Gravel from getting on the debate stage, which sucks. The article goes on to say that that sort of rapid winnowing of the field will begin to be the rule, not the exception, as we draw within a few months of the first votes of the 2020 Democratic primary race. We're getting closer to the point where some of the candidates, in hopes of having that one big moment, will need to look at themselves in the mirror and admit it just ain't happening. When does that moment come for the 15 men and women still running in the Democratic primary? When does that moment come for the 15 men and women that are still running for the Democratic presidential nominee? It sort of depends on each individual, but the deadline to make the next debate is on December 12th. And only 6 people have currently qualified. For the 9 who haven't made it, a group that includes well-known figures like Cory Booker and Julian Castro, missing the debate could be that look in the mirror moment. Now, the article puts below the 10 people most likely to wind up as a Democratic nominee for next year. Now, I want to show y'all this because I don't want to make it, maybe I'm like blind, or maybe I'm just, y'all see I got my glasses on because sometimes my vision goes. And there have been times where sometimes y'all correct me, right? So maybe I'm blind and y'all can look at this and y'all can help educate me, okay? So number 10, they have Julian Castro. Number 9, they have Tom Steyer. Number 8, they have Cory Booker. Number 7, they have Andrew Yang. Number 6, they have Michael Bloomberg. See, right here, I got excited because I was like, oh, wow. So if Yang is at 7 and Bloomberg is at 6, that must mean they got Tulsi in like the top 4, right? That's what it's got to be. So I scroll down. Amy Klobuchar at number 5. Okay. Bernie Sanders at number 4. In what world that Bernie Sanders should be anywhere below Elizabeth Warren is beyond me. But it gets worse because like I know, they're not going to leave Buttigieg off of this list. He's the next promised one. So that means that somewhere along these lines, Buttigieg is actually ahead of Bernie in their rankings. Number 3, Elizabeth Warren. Number 2, Pete Buttigieg. Number 1, Joe Biden. Hold up. Let me make sure I ain't crazy. Do y'all see a 1A located here anywhere? Any like a 1A or a 1B? Or maybe a 10B or a 10A? Any I feel like there might be a name missing here. Natalie Chavez, thanks for the super chat. Oh yeah. I'm starting to get there. I'm starting to get there too. I'm a little bit irritated by this as well because I'm scrolling, y'all, and I'm going up and down to make sure I'm not crazy because y'all know how us conspiracy theorists be. I see Biden, Buttigieg, Warren, Sanders, Klobuchar, Bloomberg, Yang, Booker, Steyer, and Julian Castro, ladies and gentlemen. CNN left off Tulsi Gabbard's name. Wow. That's it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I mean, it's once again, this isn't like out of the norm, I guess, because if you look at MSNBC, you see what they've done to Andrew Yang, right? But when it comes to Tulsi, see, CNN has a very special bone to pick with Tulsi. Y'all have to remember that CNN was all in for Kamala. You all remember that? What was all in for Kamala? They even had special town halls designated for Kamala, and they went out of their way to keep Tulsi out of town halls that you would expect her to be involved in, whether it be the climate change town hall, considering she's the only one that actually has a climate change bill, right? Not a plan, not a maybe what could have been, but an actual bill. They left out of that. They had a young voters town hall that they purposely left Tulsi out, even though I think she's the youngest candidate running. She's definitely, no, yeah, she is. I think that Buttigieg might be a year older or the other way around. But either way, they had Buttigieg and they had Kamala, but they didn't have Tulsi. Isn't that interesting? And then, of course, Tulsi took out Kamala in July. Her campaign has never recovered. CNN invested a lot of money. That was a prime asset that they put a lot of money into that Tulsi just, hey, all your little corporate money, we're going to throw that out the window with the rest of the garbage. And of course, they were never going to let Tulsi be like they were never going to like let her back on the debate stage if they could help it. Because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, CNN is supposed to be hosting the next debate on top of all of this. Now, what makes this particularly egregious? I don't know. Let's look at the fact that they included Michael Bloomberg on here. When did he announce? A week ago? 2 weeks ago, maybe? Michael Bloomberg has never participated in a single debate. He has, as of now, not qualified for the December debates. And as of now, it don't look like he's going to qualify for the November debates. Okay? Michael Bloomberg has zero chance of winning this nomination. The fact that they included him in a list of candidates that will most likely win the nomination is baffling to me. I don't get it. I don't get it. But maybe some people would make the argument, and it is a legitimate argument. Well, he's a billionaire. We saw Tom Steyer kind of buy his way into this competition. And so perhaps maybe he doesn't make the December debates, but as the elections go on, he might make later debates and become a legitimate candidate. Okay, I'll accept that argument for this case. But maybe let's look up to this guy right here. You see me, sir. Julian Castro, ladies and gentlemen. Julian Castro is the same Julian Castro that many of you Tulsi supporters may remember as a guy who actually tried to fundraise by talking about the fact that Tulsi qualified for the November debates pretty early on, I might say, before he did. And his literal fundraising tactic was, come on, y'all. Even Tulsi qualified for these debates. Please help me make the debate stage. Now, do you know why he had to say that? Because Julian Castro didn't make the November debates, ladies and gentlemen. They included Julian Castro as a top 10 person most likely to win the nomination. And Julian Castro, with all of the help in the world, because he's been getting a lot of help, a lot of free promotion. Julian Castro couldn't even make the November debates. Julian Castro finally hit the donation threshold for the December debates, but to my understanding, still has yet to hit a single polling threshold for the December debates. unless something has changed in the last couple of days, which I seriously doubt. So it is looking more and more likely, because I doubt that they're going to do any polling in an attempt to hopefully keep Tulsi off the debate stage. Like, that's what their goal is. All of a sudden, they stop polling. Isn't that interesting? When they wanted to get Tom Steyer on there, boy, they could push them polls out. When they wanted to make sure Amy Klobuchar, they could push them polls out. When they wanted to prove that Elizabeth Warren was beating Bernie for that 5 minutes, they pushed them polls out. When they wanted to show that Buttigieg was doing so much better than he was after the exchange with Tulsi and him, pushed them polls out. But now that they got their narrative set up, and now that Tulsi's eliminated Kamala, oh, you think they want Tulsi back on that stage? Because that would be validating. That would mean that Tulsi's critiques of Kamala were indeed effective. I mean, they were. But having her on the stage and having Kamala off the stage, aesthetically, it looks bad for the establishment. It does. But, like I said, you have Julian Castro, who was about to... He didn't make November debates. He's not going to make the December debates. He's not even close. Tulsi's merely one poll away, and she technically did qualify. Because the Boston Globe poll, the Suffolk Boston Globe poll, should have been a qualifying poll, because Boston Globe is holistically owned by the New York Times, and the New York Times is a qualifying sponsor. So in other words, Boston Globe can't get the Suffolk poll. They couldn't conduct it without clearing it through their mother company, which would be the New York Times. And it would have been fine. It would have been a qualifying poll. But Tulsi got 6% on that poll. Can't have that. You got Cory Booker, who a month ago, his campaign was in the tank, like about to drop out. He's very close to having to drop out still. Julian Castro is close to having to drop out still. Michael Bloomberg. Come on, people. Amy Klobuchar. Actually, Amy Klobuchar is a more legitimate candidate than Julian Castro. Honestly, if I'm going to be real about it. As in, she has a more legitimate chance than 2 or 3 of the people listed on this page. Then you're going to have, then the way, like I said, the way they set it up, that Pete Buttigieg and Joe Biden are ahead of Bernie. Is Bernie really the 4th most likely to get the nomination? Like, if we're being objective here and looking at the raw numbers, Bernie's probably the 1st. Bernie's probably the 1st if we're looking at the raw numbers. And yet they have him at 4, below Buttigieg and Biden and Warren. Come on, bro. CNN, this is egregious. This is journalistic malpractice. Get it together. Y'all can have her on your show. You can manufacture smears about her. You can attack her relentlessly and religiously. But you can't, even if you wanted to smear her in the article, because we kind of expect that at this point, right? We kind of expect them to smear her. Even if you want to smear her in the article, at least you mention her. But you're going to pull one of these, y'all, this is fascism. This is fascism. This is Orwellian. When you have a popular Democratic candidate who's running for the president of the United States, a sitting congresswoman, a congresswoman who sat on the Committee of Foreign Affairs, sat on the National Security Committee, who has sat on the Council on Foreign Relations. I'm not sure she's on it anymore, but she was on the Council on Foreign Relations. When you had a congresswoman who was a vice chairwoman for the Democratic National Committee, when you have a congresswoman who spoke at the 2012 Democratic National Convention, when you have a congresswoman who spoke at the 2016 Democratic National Convention, when you have a congresswoman who's trended #1 on Twitter multiple times over and over and over and over and over again, and you decide to leave her off, this is beyond accidental. This is damn near libel by omission. That's what this is. And they're very careful about the words. They say, these are the 10 people most likely to wind up as the Democratic nominee for president next year. They're very careful about their words. But once again, how can Julian Castro be considered most likely? As far as I'm concerned, Julian Castro had the same chance as Steve Bullock. Julian Castro got the same chance as Kamala, who's already dropped out. Look at how they even portray Yang. Yang's support is limited. Yang just had like a whole record-breaking fundraising quarter, but Yang's support is limited. But it's a solid 2 or 3%. Yang has had polls in California 4 or 5% and above, in New Hampshire 4 or 5%, in Iowa 4 or 5. I think I've seen a poll with Yang at 8%. It's nonsensical, bro. At least they mentioned Andrew Yang's ability to save money. But unfortunately, Yang is in the same position as Tulsi right now, where they're trying to keep him from qualifying for the December debates as well. But at least they mentioned Yang, I guess. But he's not at 2-3%. Like, he's doing better than A.B. Klobuchar is. I think that nobody can argue against that. This is what we're dealing with. This is true authoritarianism. This is fascism. Like, this is the Orwellian. This is like, I just can't believe that this is going to go unchallenged. These are journalists. This is considered a report. I don't think this is an opinion. This is an analysis. This is considered legitimate analysis. This is considered legitimate journalism. I'm going to read these super chats and get up out of here. Natalie Chavez, thanks for the super chat again. The posters are hanging up on people when they say Tulsi's name. I've heard that. And I actually heard that not within the last month. I heard that 5 or 6 months ago that that's happening. But I've been said that. I said they're going to screw themselves. They're going to convince themselves that Tulsi isn't popular. They did the same thing with Bernie. The same situation happened in 2016. Posters were hanging up the phone. They were misrepresenting Bernie's numbers. They were blacking him out. And because they weren't hearing about Tulsi on the television, or Bernie on the television screen in 2016, they thought that people weren't hearing about him. Okay, keep it up. And whenever she wins New Hampshire, we're going to be right here. MCSC Network, sitting here with our arms folded like this. Sipping some tea. Like, that's crazy. If only there was a progressive media network that could have predicted such a thing. If only CNN and MSNBC and these posters didn't trick themselves into believing that Tulsi wasn't doing well. I'm sipping my tea though. Glory Jones, thank you for the super chat. Trash Mo, less than or greater than 4% polls. Oh, you mean margin of error? Trash margin of error. Greater than 4% polls a way to screw people over now that the superdelegates are out of the first round. And I can't wait till Castro drops out. For sure, Glory. And Chican, thanks for the super chat as well. And Glory, just to add on to that briefly, they actually had these ridiculously trash polls in 2016 as well. Like the over 4%, 5% margin of errors. They've been had that. It's been like that since 2016. And they did that when they were trying to convince people that Trump was unpopular still. They've done it when they were trying to convince people that Russiagate was a legitimate electoral issue or election issue. No, it wasn't. Antonio T, is the Tulsi surge and Warren decline accurate? Not only is it accurate, it's actually, so I've had this theory for quite some time and it's proven to be true. I said that the reason that they started pushing Warren even harder, even when Kamala was still doing well, was because they were trying to prop her up as the progressive alternative to Bernie, because it's already well known within the progressive movement that the second most progressive person, or not second most progressive, the only other progressive, I should say, in the race was Tulsi Gabbard. And of course, obviously Mike Gravel and Marianne Williamson and then Andrew Yang is kind of like on that line, but for sure, without question, it was Tulsi. However, if people start seeing Tulsi as a second progressive in the race, but then start to look deeper into her policies and recognize like, oh wow, not only is she offering most of what Bernie's offering, but she's offering even more, and she has a demeanor and an understanding to not only combat and fight first on domestic issues, but fight first on foreign issues as well. And I believe their internal polling was showing that Tulsi was doing better than Warren. So then they started force feeding Warren down our throats and calling her progressive and trying to make her seem like the heir apparent alternative to Bernie rather than Tulsi, because Tulsi was the one who was actually doing well. They do this often where they'll have internal polling with the Democrats, It'll say one thing. However, the polls that get released say something completely different. They do the internal polling to help guide their actual strategy. The external polling is to guide public opinion. So, with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and get up out of cheer. I hope you all enjoyed that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Leave a like and a comment below. Make sure you share this video to help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon by clicking on the link in the description and donating as little as $1. We're at 331 patrons on Patreon last time I checked. So we're getting there. We're getting there. About 170 away from reaching our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon. You can help us reach that goal by clicking on the link in the description below. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, always remember more than anything else, find your balance. Peace. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and hit that notification bell if you like that segment of Mikasa Sukasa. Of course, if YouTube is giving you trouble, as it always does, you can download the Rockfin app and follow us there. Also, if you want to continue to help our show grow, you can help us reach our goal of 500 patrons on Patreon and donate as little as $1. Really, anything helps. Other than that, always remember, people, more than anything else, find your balance. Peace.